Welcome. This is the purple political break down. Now, when it comes to me, I don't care about the politics game. I don't care about the shots at individual character. I care about you as a potential president of the United States and a representative of the greatest country in the world. Vivek, you are dumb. You are smooth brain. You are brain dead. Bro, Nikki Haley cooked. She did the best there. She was the best Republican candidate nominee by far. Do you want a great website like this? This is my podcast website where I direct the audience to come to watch the content, listen to the content, read the blogs, and much more. If you want to have your own customizable podcast website, then join my affiliate link in my description to sign up for something called Podpage, and they can help you customize an easy podcast website for your personal podcast. Sign up to get a discount now. Again, use the link in my description to join Podpage now. Are you enjoying today's podcast episode? I really hope you do. And I really hope you enjoy the fact that I have an amazing guest talking with me and having this great discussion. If you, as an individual, personally have your own podcast and maybe you want to have great guests on your podcast as well, I got a deal for you. In my description, there is a link to something called Podmatch. Make sure to join that link through my affiliate link so you can sign up to get matched up with other podcast hosts and podcast guests so you make sure you are never missing an episode without a productive guest to have an amazing conversation with. Podmatch is similar to any other kind of matching site for the most part, and it's super easy to use. Just $6 a month and you can have a guest for each and every podcast episode that is tailored to your specific topic. So again, join the link in my description and join Podmatch now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is a short, quick episode, and the format looks a little different. This is probably what I'll use for like singular episodes, but this kind of framing is kind of weird. But I'm here. See me right here. I'm your host, Riddell Lewis. It's just me. And I wanted to do this shorter episode, or I just wanted to do this individualized episode real quick for you guys today so I could talk about the Republican nominees for the presidential election. The recent Republican debate panel, the recent Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump interview, and even Larry Elder was talking about his situation a little bit. I want to talk about every single one of them and hopefully convince you of my thoughts because that's what we're here to do. The nuanced position, the solutions, and I know what I'm talking about. Of course, if you want to support the podcast, you can rate us 5 stars. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel or follow us on our streaming platforms, Kick, Rumble, Twitch, whatever you want. Go to the website and support the website, www.purplepoliticalbreakdown.com. I don't got a review to read off, and I don't got a what you need to know. All those will come later in terms of the segments. I may change things up. I might have to do this a little bit early. So the episode that's dropping on Thursday, I'm going to drop this Monday. The episode that's dropping Thursday is kind of out of order a little bit. This is episode 41. That would be episode 42. I will say 41 in the episode because I'm doing this. I'm kind of messing up the order. It's fine. That episode 42 is a hilarious. But again, I might change a few things up moving forward. With that said, let us dive into the Republican debate panel and the Republican nominees for the presidential election. Now, to start off, let's talk about the Republican debate panel. I watched the full thing, reacted to it live on Twitch, Rumble, and Kick. You can check me out, Purple Political Breakdown, for you guys to see my live streams, so you can comment on whatever you want to comment on. And I watched it, and I gave a point system to each of the nominees based off their performance. Now, when it comes to me, I don't care about the politics game. I don't care about the shots at individual character. I care about you as a potential president of the United States and a representative of the greatest country in the world. I care about your policies. I care about your plan. I care about your solution. I don't even necessarily have to agree with your plan of action to think that at least you have one. And that is what I'm going to talk about today, right? So, first things first, let's start off with some of the probably worst performers. One of the people who was there and didn't have any impact on anything at all. He was just a smiling face. He talked well and he kind of said some decent rhetoric. That is Senator Scott. Tim Scott honestly left no impression for me. And he's the only guy that was my color on the panel. Vivek doesn't count. Tim Scott, I'm sorry, but you really didn't impress me. You didn't really showcase what you're about. You didn't really set the stage of how you were different from any other person on there and the rhetoric that is spilt out from any typical Republican. I'm sorry, but to say that you as a person, as an individual who's going to run the country will be an effective leader, I doubt it. You said a few kind of politicky things talking about how when I was poor and I grew out to become the greatest country in the earth, this is what I want to showcase all of you. But then you said something stupid saying that I'm going to fire 87,000 IRS agents. Like, that is dumb. So, Republican jargon, not many solutions and not many plans of actions. I'm sorry, Tim Scott, you left no impression. And honestly, you got what you get 0 points. You got 0 points after you said that RS statement. That was dumb, right? Next, let's move on to who would be fun to talk about. Let's talk about Pence, right? Mike Pence, the VP of Donald Trump. Now he's running against Donald Trump. Now, I don't think he has any kind of illusion that if Donald Trump was actually there, that he would win a 1v1 confrontation against Trump. Everything associated to Trump's success is associated with Pence, especially considering that he doesn't have the personality that Trump has. So there's no doubt in my mind that Pence knows that he would never beat Trump. One thing that you need to realize that I feel like a lot of Republican nominees realize is that Donald Trump is in a very weird situation where he, as an individual, based on how this indictment will go, based off how the continued information and evidence on how bad of a politician he really was comes out, he could fall out the race not due to his popularity, but due to circumstantial situations. And that's probably what some people are hoping for, including Pence, because he knows if he ran against Donald Trump, he would lose. Now, Pence said some things with, vigor, and he said some things as a government employee that I did respect. He noted things such as, oh, when we are addressing the Ukraine and Russia situation, we realize that Putin is an asshole, and then we also realize that we can also handle the immigration situation. So he confronted both circumstances, whereas people like maybe Vivek was saying stuff like, hey man, take everybody out of Ukraine, let Russia have them, and then we'll just focus on the southern border. It's an idiotic statement, and we'll touch upon Vivek in a second, but Pence did have some moments where I thought that he showed why he was in office as a leader, right? He knows what he's talking about. He's firm on his convictions, which I respect. I don't necessarily agree with everything, but I respect as an individual who is representing the country. So with that said, Mike Pence overall doesn't really have anything that stands out if he wasn't tied with Trump, however. So Pence is kind of leaning on his past credibility and his association with Trump, but other than that, he's really not that guy personally. Let's go into Chris Christie. Now, Chris Christie was a interesting individual. Now, I think he took the most L's on the Republican debate panel personally. I think he was kind of not sure what he wanted. He tried to make it up for it with some quick remarks. I think he had the best attack on Vivek the entire day. He called him ChatGPT and a bootleg Barack Obama. And I think he had some things that was credible in terms of being the only Republican candidate to win over a Democrat majority electorate, right? So with that said, Chris Christie had some things that was decently impressive, but as a leader, I'm not buying it much. I think he needs to sell it a little bit more. He's trying to be the charismatic, he's trying to be the policy guy. I think if I had to rate him overall, he has both, but both of it is just at a lower level than some other people that I think were better than him on the debate panel. Speaking of an individual that didn't perform that well, Ron DeSantis was actually horrible on that Republican debate panel. He never answered a question. He constantly was saying rhetoric points instead of policy points, and he wasn't charismatic. DeSantis was terrible on the debate panel. He made himself look much more incompetent than I know he actually is, because when he was running Florida, whether you agree or disagree, you have to take into account that Ron DeSantis got things done. And that's something none of us can dismiss. But as a presidential candidate, as a politician, as a nominee, he's absolutely terrible at the politics game. I think I heard something said from, I believe, Matt Walsh, and he said that DeSantis's best bet is if he came into his campaign and he's indicated that I'm not good at this politics game. I'm not a Donald Trump. I'm not a Vivek. I am Ron DeSantis, and I'm here to get stuff done. If he was very stern on his very, nonchalant person, not nonchalant, but very straightforward personality and get done attitude, if he kind of leaned into that, he would have been better off. But considering he hasn't as of yet, that was terrible. That was terrible. And I'll give you my ranking of all the nominees later on, right? So stay tuned for that so you can get a full ranking. Next, let's talk about Hutchinson. Now, Hutchinson, I think, actually was pretty impressive. I think he definitely stood out as an individual compared to a lot of other nominees. He didn't really say a lot of the rhetoric points, although he had some based off like Republican values, which is respectable. I think he also had some policies that was his own, and he had some plans, but he's kind of forgettable, which is the big thing for Hutchinson. I don't really remember a lot of the things that he said. One thing that I do remember based on like how he stood out from what I was seeing is that when everybody rose their hand for like if Trump was the primary nominee, would I support him? Hutchinson was the only person that didn't raise his hand, and he stood by that. Whereas Chris Christie and DeSantis was shaking on it, like get a spine. Honestly, Hutchinson stood tall and said, "Man, I'm not supporting that guy. He is a criminal." So I respect Hutchinson for that. I actually give him a point for that. So with that said, Hutchinson is definitely an individual. He just doesn't leave a lasting impression. He doesn't impress. He's not that flashy, and his policies are not that entertaining. So he honestly is gonna fall on the wayside. Next, let's talk about Burgum. Burgum, I think, moving forward, he will continue to gain steam, and I think he will be one of those politicians that will continuously grow more popular. I think a lot of the things he was saying was very on point. Burgum, as an individual, was really noted that I came from a small community. I know how the people think. I know how the townspeople think. He always referenced his experience as a town individual, as a city individual, trying to adhere to the community values that need to be met. One thing that I really love from Bergen is when people were trying to lay out some type of policy regarding abortion, indicating a federal ban, he brought out the 10th Amendment and said, I don't agree to late term abortion. Well, based off the 10th Amendment, we need to stop giving the federal government more powers. If you are going to make the case that you want to limit the federal government, decrease their powers, how are you also going to do a 180 and try to give them more powers by giving them the ability to make abortion federal bans or abortion federal policies? That is counterproductive, it's hypocritical, and it sets a bad precedent. What I love from Bergen in that situation is he realized that the ideology from Republicans, as they say, is that we want a limited government. We want a limited federal government. We want to put powers back into the states. And he reiterated that point a few times. So I respect Bergen from doing that. He stood fast on his character and on his ideology. And I respected the points he was making about China, considering that they're making batteries and all that stuff. We need to stop that as well. So shout out Bergam. Next, let's talk about Vivek. Vivek Ramaswamy was the highlight of the show for the wrong reason. Vivek was terrible on the debate panel. Now, people were going to say that he did amazing. He did well. What he did well? Well, He did the politics game well. Did he say anything? No, he didn't have a single policy. He didn't understand what he was talking about, and he was saying a bunch of crap. That's all he was saying the entire day. Now, people were eating it up because, honestly, Vivek supporters are Trump supporters. People who are anti-establishment and who have no idea how government really works. And Vivek was a prime example of that. The creme de la creme moment for me, the two things for Vivek is one, how he wanted to eliminate the Department of Education, he wanted to eliminate the FBI, he wanted to take away teachers unions and like 5 other things. He just wanted to tear down the federal government. And the second part is when he was talking about how we should allow Russia to have Ukraine so Russia doesn't fall in hands with China. That is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. Vivek, you are dumb. You are smooth brain. You are brain dead. So Vivek, like in reality, he's not dumb, but as a politician, he is dumb. So Vivek just says a bunch of stuff and he says a bunch of crap and he has no idea what he's talking about. With that said, let's talk about the last nominee on the debate panel, and that was Nikki Haley, which I believe was the best performer on the debate panel. Now, some people may say not, and the only people who say that she wasn't the best performer are Trump supporters, because anybody with a brain can't see that. What she did on that panel was the most impressive thing. Sure, she didn't play the politics game as well as Vivek, but she actually played the politics game well. In addition, she said a number of political positions and plans and solutions. Honestly, she cooked. She started off when it came to Bidenomics. Instead of everybody having the baseline saying Biden is the reason for inflation, Biden is the reason for gas prices going up, all that stuff, which is a very baseline and disingenuous remark of how everything ended up, how they ended up. When we know that COVID was heavily responsible, and we know that the administration during COVID was heavily responsible. And she pointed that out because it's a addition of Biden, and whether or not you agree is irrelevant right now, but also the Republicans who also put plans in place during COVID that put us in the situation we are in now, which would be Trump, which would be Pence, and which would be Republicans, right? She called them out right from the beginning and saying, I'm going to take responsibility as a Republican, but y'all are lying. Let's fix it and stop lying to the people and trying to blame Biden on everything. It's not just Biden. She continues when she talked about abortion. Stop right there. Yes, this is a little mini ad. Don't skip. Don't skip. All I want to tell you right now is that at the end of the day, when it comes down to all the discussions I want to have, I want to be able to communicate with you, the audience. I want to be able to relay a message and receive a message from everyone and try to come up with these great solutions that I keep on talking about. So if you want to be part of the community, make sure you go to the website and sign up for not only the email list so you can get weekly emails from me for the podcast episode, informational sessions, all that great stuff, but also sign up to go on my Discord so you can be part of the discussions, debates on my live streams. So be sure to go to the website, www.purplepoliticalbreakdown.com, and go to the email list, sign up, and go to the Discord and join the server. Now back to the episode. She said she's pro-life, which is fine. If you're pro-life, pro-life, pro-choice, it's whatever. It doesn't matter. But she, very similar to Bergen, was like, we should not put the power in the federal government's hand. That's an idiotic idea. It should be the people's decision to figure out what they want based on the state that they are living in. She also noted this, that it's unrealistic to have federal bans based off based off the bipartisanship that is in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. Stop making baseless lies. Then she also said, with that said, let's come to a compromise, a consensus. A few things that she pointed out, which was amazing, by the way, is that let's all agree late-term abortion is bad. Let's all agree that what was I gonna say? Oh, contraception is good. Let's all agree that if women that have abortion shouldn't go to jail or shouldn't be killed, and a few other things she mentioned, which was very intelligent. Her abortion take was amazing. Her take regarding Russia and Ukraine was amazing, saying we shouldn't let Russia do what they want, because if we keep on letting Russia do what they want, they'll eventually keep on doing what they want and attack Poland and the Baltics. We know that this will be the case when it comes to Russia. We should make sure that Ukraine stops them in the tracks. Vivek is absolutely dumb when it came to this. She talked about how we could handle both that and we could handle our border. We just need to reallocate the resources better. She talked about education, on how we should increase reading, and she hated the woke stuff. Bro, Nikki Haley cooked. She did the best there. She was the best Republican candidate nominee by far. Now let's talk about Donald Trump and Larry Elder. Well, first thing was that Larry Elder was supposed to be there. Apparently the reason why he wasn't there is that there was a certain mix-up based off his poll that he submitted based off his percentage of popularity, and that there was some discrepancy, and now he's suing the RNC. So let's see what happens with that. As for Donald Trump, he had an interview with Tucker Carlson, and let me tell you, that interview was trash. That interview sucked. I watched the entire thing. I think I didn't watch the last 6 minutes because I couldn't bear it anymore. And all Trump talked about is how the election was stolen and how Joe Biden is old. That is all they talked about. Then they talked about some nonsense about the Panama Canal. They talked about some nonsense on whether or not Epstein is dead. They talked about some nonsense about Joe Biden being on a beach. They talked about no policies. They talked about nothing of substance and just talked about conspiracy theories and Republican rhetoric. More specifically, Trump Republican rhetoric. Tucker Carlson is a tool, by the way, who has white stuff dripping out of his mouth. So that is how I feel about that interview. So with that said, I'm going to rank all the nominees based on what's the is the no, not capability, not qualification, not character. What is the word I'm thinking of? Basically ranking them on, I guess, the quality of them as a politician. There's a better word, I just can't think of it. So in last place, as of right now, until he actually shows up on a panel and I see his positions, would be Larry Elder. I didn't see what he could do, so I can't give him a higher ranking. After Larry Elder, it would be Tim Scott. He had no lasting impression, so I can't give him anything more. Next, I would give Chris Christie. Chris Christie would be next in this situation. I probably should number them, right? So I have a better sense. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 representatives. So number 10 I have is who's last? I think I went number 10, Tim Scott. No lasting impression. Oh no. Number 10, this is going to be the clip. Here's my 10 Republican nominees ranked from worst to best based off the quality they have as a politician, unfortunately the politics game, and their actual policies and their qualifications as a leader, as a potential leader of the greatest country in the world. Number 10, Larry Elder. I don't know much about Larry Elder. He didn't appear on the Republican nominee. I heard his reason, so I can't put him any higher. Number 9, Tim Scott. I'm not racist. Both of them are black, but come on now. Tim Scott had no lasting impression, and he really didn't do much when he was on the panel. Number 8 for me would probably be Chris Christie. I think Chris Christie took a lot of L's on the Republican debate panel. He didn't really say much. He had one good line when he talked about Vivek being ChatGPT and bootleg Barack Obama, but that is about it. Number 7, I probably would give this to Hutchinson. I think Hutchinson did well in terms of implementing his policy. He's just kind of forgettable, and he didn't leave a lasting impression. You probably would forget about him the day after, honestly. Number 6, and this one things gets kind of juicy. I'm gonna go Mike Pence. I think Pence, he actually is a strong leader, as what he showed on the debate panel. I don't think he did too bad, honestly, but he's just permanently associated with Trump, so he'll never steer clear from him. Number 5, I will go Burgum. I think Burgum Also needs to get better at the politics game. I think he's decent at the politics game. I think he had a lot of really good policies and a lot of good plan of actions, and he told his story. Bergam is definitely one of those peoples moving forward that he'll continue growing momentum because he's likable. He has great ideas. I just think he needs a little bit more of a leave a lasting impression. He's kind of forgettable as well, but he had some really good ideas and policies. Number four, I will probably give to Vivek. I think Vivek, in terms of policies, is actual absolute dog water. I want to say something worse. I think Vivek is terrible as a politician. He'd be terrible as a president. He'd be terrible as a leader in terms of the politics game because he has no idea what he's talking about. But in terms of playing the game of politics, him and Trump are probably the top two, honestly, if I'm being completely honest. So he gets this high ranking because he plays the politics game so well that brain dead Trump supporters thinks that he won the debate. I don't know how, but apparently they do. So with that said, number three, Ron DeSantis. DeSantis is a terrible at the politics game, but he actually has a record to fall back on. He obviously, what he did with Florida, if you're a Republican or conservative, you probably like a lot of things he did in Florida. So he's actually someone who can get things done, which is very respectable. So he has a track record. Again, he just sucks at the game of politics. He's terrible at it. He should stop trying to be one of those charismatic fellows because he sucks at it. With that said, number two, I would put Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the master at the politics game. He also has no policies like Vivek. He's like Vivek, but knows how to manipulate people way better. And he's way better at the politics game than Vivek. And he actually was president, so he kind of has a track record as well. So with that said, Donald Trump would still have it's as of right now he has terrible policies and he would be a terrible president. Moving forward, I don't think you can make the case he wouldn't be. With that said, my number one is Nikki Haley, and I'm dead serious. If you don't vote for Nikki Haley, you're sexist. But to be serious, I think Nikki Haley does the politics game well. I don't think she does it as well as Vivek or Trump, but she probably does it better than everybody else though, which is strong for her, right? So Nikki Haley has a very positive personality. She leaves a lasting impression. People are going to remember her after you hear her talk. Her policies are probably the best there. Her and Bergen probably top two in policies and plans and solutions that they actually talked about. So Nikki Haley is one of the better politicians in terms of playing the politics game and one of the better leaders and effective leaders. And don't know exactly how much she actually got done, but from what she said, she has a lot of really great ideas. So with that said, Nikki Haley for me is the best Republican nominee, based off those two criteria. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Of course, that is all we got for today's podcast episode. Rated 5 stars if you enjoyed. Of course, you will have a good one. I just wanted to talk about the Republican debates and the Republican nominees for you. Don't worry about it. And if you disagree, let me know. Email me. Follow me on social media. My links are on my website. You have a good one. Take care and peace.